If I had 10 minutes and the attention of a million people, I would talk about a topic that has long piqued my interest: the recondite relationship between occultism and fascism, both throughout history and in the modern day. While such a nexus may at first appear to be nothing more than another abstract flight of fancy, to be confined to the realm of grandiloquent ivory tower grandstanding, this connection is actually highly significant for anyone who wishes to attain a greater understanding of the ideological, cultural, and political history of the Western world over the past 20 years. Of all the agitational ideological movements of the 20th century, perhaps none have cemented themselves so firmly in the collective psyche of the 21st century as fascism, and more specifically, its infamous German variant, Nazism. Indeed, Nazism, both as an ideology and through its real-world implementation, had a tremendous impact both on German domestic affairs, as exemplified through how German cultural life underwent a diametric shift in a matter of years following the NSDAP's rise to power, and the world at large. After all, was it not the geopolitical provocations of Adolf Hitler and other Nazi leaders that dragged most of the world into the largest and deadliest war in history, World War II? Clearly, this impact was a negative one. The combination of virulent ethnic and racial bigotry, political totalitarianism, and exterminationism was the perfect trifecta for words like Hitler and Nazi to become bywords for the depths of human depravity and pure evil. Of course, such an iniquitous reputation is well deserved, and it is precisely because of this fact that it irks me that the average person has such a poor understanding of one of the key aspects of a movement that was so hideously impactful. Nazism and fascism in general was undoubtedly a far-right movement, but it seems as if this label has prompted laymen to erroneously label it as, quote, conservative, in turn prompting them to go through elaborate mental gymnastics to explain what the viewpoint of Benito Mussolini has in common with that of Jeb Bush. What these individuals fail to recognize is that 20th century fascism was fundamentally a transgressive, revolutionary, and reactionary movement that sought to overthrow the dominant world order of the time, not to conserve it. One of the key characteristics of fascism is the idea of palingenetic rebirth, that a civilization or society has figuratively been held captive by subversive, domineering elements that have emasculated and stripped it of its fundamental vital qualities, thus necessitating a national or civilizational rebirth, a phoenix rising from the ashes, if you will, to put an end to this state of degeneracy. In this regard, fascism has always aimed to subvert the ruling liberal capitalist hegemony that conservatives and liberals alike have so strongly endeavored to preserve. In fact, in the modern day, fascism and the far right in general arguably overlaps more with the far left in its terminology and stated aims than with the mainstream right, seeing how both factions speak of the necessity to overthrow, be it literally or figuratively, the established order and vociferously oppose the march of neoliberalism, globalization, and Western ascendancy more broadly. Of course, when any group is thrown to the periphery, it is not long before they find themselves associating with the other fringe groups of the underground menagerie, and in such circumstances, fascism and occultism soon become intertwined. Indeed, one of the foundational beliefs of Nazism, for example, that the Germans belonged to a superior Aryan race, was often promoted on the assumption that Aryans, or in some cases Indo-Europeans at large, were descended from a mythical, primordial group of demigods known as the Hyperboreans, thereby making them, on account of their supernatural ancestry, superior to other races. Clearly, such a justification for racial supremacy went far beyond earlier ideas of social Darwinism and survival of the fittest and into esoteric and occult realms. One of the key proponents of this idea, Julius Evola, a man who maintained close contacts with notorious fascists in the German Nazi Party and Corneliu Codreanu of Romania's Iron Guard, has been widely regarded as one of the most influential far-right ideologues of all time. His influence is so wide-reaching that even Steve Bannon, the White House's chief strategist during the beginning of Donald Trump's presidency, has named him as an influence. Evola constantly voiced his disdain for Christianity, when stating that Christianity is at the root of the evil that has corrupted the West, instead favoring an esoteric form of reactionary paganism blended with occultism that borrowed from the collective range of philosophical traditions, from magical idealism to Hinduism. Indeed, Evola referred to the aforementioned phase of degeneracy so commonly described by the far right with the term Kali Yuga, the fourth and worst of the four cycles of time, or yugas in Hinduism. Many of the figures whom Evola aspired took his occultism even further, such as Miguel Serrano, a Chilean writer, diplomat, and member of the National Socialist Movement of Chile, who openly advocated in support of Nazi Germany during World War II, and he viewed Adolf Hitler as a spiritual being of pure willpower, a Shudu who had been incarnated under the guise of a human to act as the savior of the Aryan race and lead humanity out of the Kali Yuga. Serrano, who fused his Nazism with ceremonial magic and Kundalini yoga, developed a mythology of the human races that surpassed even Evola in its esotericism, describing the Hyperboreans, descendants of modern-day Europeans, or in simpler terms, the white race, as extragalactic beings that arrived to Earth countless millennia ago, having since found themselves embroiled in both a spiritual and physical war with the Demiurge, an inferior godlet whose physical representation is the planet Earth, and that is worshipped by Jews. It was from this mythology that Serrano's anti-Semitism evolved. According to Serrano, if the descendants of the Hyperboreans, the modern-day Aryans, repurified their blood to restore their divine extraterrestrial roots, they could overthrow the Kali Yuga and restore the Golden Age, stating that, quote, there is nothing more mysterious than blood. Paracelsus considered it a condensation of light. I believe that the Aryan Hyperborean blood is that, but not the light of the black golden sun, not of a galactic sun, but of the light of the black sun, of the green ray. Some may find indulging in the metaphysical musings of a 20th century exponent of, quote, esoteric Hitlerism, the very name of such a belief instills in those who hear it emotions ranging from utter bewilderment to outright laughter, to be nothing more than exercise in futility and pseudo-intellectual mental masturbation. But such haste judgment actually proves dangerous, for ideas like those espoused by Evola and Serrano are not just confined to the pages of obscure treatises and biographies, but rather have influenced and are possessed by ideologues and leaders that are impacting the world as we speak. Any reasonably informed individual should be aware of Russia's invasion of Ukraine beginning in February of 2022 and the ongoing conflict between the two nations. But are they aware of the fact that Alexander Dugin, a Russian political philosopher who has been described as Putin's brain and whose statements have had an enormous impact on the Kremlin's conception of Russia and Ukraine, regards Evola as a key influence? Dugin describes the current geopolitical state of affairs as a battle between the Eurasian and Atlanticist powers, the latter of whom have utterly abandoned the ingrained hierarchies of the mythical occult past in favor of spiritual desiccation and a soulless neoliberal world order predicated on consumerism, hypercapitalism, and decadence. In his view, the modern-day nation of Ukraine functions as a colony of Atlanticism, a status that Russia's invasion seeks to put an end to. If the very war that threatens to push humanity into World War III and even the apocalypse possesses such occult mythological underpinnings, then for how much longer can we disregard them and continue to blindly assert that the real far right are actually just American bumpkin baby boomers who love their beer, guns, Bibles, and the police? In The Art of War, Sun Tzu stated that, quote, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. Unfortunately, for as long as the Western political establishment and the left continue to put forth an inaccurate, imperceptive assessment of the right, Sun Tzu's advice will have been lost on them. My name is Jordan, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.